Wabanapiyekna, Wabanapiyekna, Mega the Sespelamadiek, Bukalada Musha, Wabanapiyek.
I had a beautiful basket here I wanted to show you, just an example of the work.
Wow.
Just wanted to show you this, Jarvis. This is an actual seat of the chair that was removed. You can see the artwork in it.
Well, Lipstick Book, Roger, good morning.
Good morning.
Could you share with us how you got involved in working with the museum here and its Mi'kmaq collection?
Okay, I started back in probably 2001 working out of Truro, doing archaeological work in support of rights and title. And a position was available here at the Nova Scotia Museum as curator of ethnology. An archaeologist works with kind of a, I don't want to say a dead past, but a past. And an ethnologist works with living cultures. When I first got here, I think a lot of the collection, it was based on a Victorian type collection. You got to remember, we're in a museum and it's very Victorian kind of based, and we tend to look at collections, Mi'kmaq collection, historic collections as artifacts and relics of the past. But when I got here, I think my objective was to put kind of the humanity back into the collections. They were more than just an old relic type of object. So you see downstairs, you'll see the Nadugalam exhibit, and that started out just after I got here. We figured we'd give it a name, the Mi'kmaq name, Nadugalam, and what we started using and realized that although we're a natural history museum, natural history and culture go together. They're inseparable. You know, they coexist together. And people have commented, well, maybe a cultural museum is not appropriate in a natural history museum, but I think it is because of the connection Mi'kmaq people have with environment, landscape, and I think it's probably a more appropriate place. Well, initially when Mi'kmaq people would come in here, there was kind of an apprehension, kind of a suspicion that museums had taken things out of the community unethically. I think once they were satisfied that a lot of the material that we had was either gifted, donated, or purchased, they felt better. I think just to watch them come in and finally have access to things that their aunties might have made, their grandparents, it's really kind of emotional, like I say, and that kind of adds to the fact we want to put the humanity back into the cultural belongings because they do belong to people out in these communities. And this, for example, is a rustic outdoor table that was made by Mi'kmaq. So it was a good example, like I say, of rustic Mi'kmaq furniture that was made through the early 1900s, very industrious. And again, it's part of that adaptation of what they produced and well sought after. Someplace here in this museum, I actually have a table like this made from Turtle Grove.
Oh, wow.
Before the village was, it's the only known artifact
that survived the explosion.
That survived the explosion.
Wow.
I don't think there's material in here that was taken unethically. I can honestly say that. And I would say that to Mi'kmaq people with a good conscience. Now, I would say material that was probably taken unethically probably would have been taken in the early 1900s by people like Frank Speck and Wallace and them, who traveled around the province. That was a time at the peak of the disappearing Mi'kmaq. Sending material to Pittsburgh, sending it to Ottawa, sending it to the Smithsonian, the Museum of American Indian in New York. And so you wouldn't have saw collections like that in this museum. Harry Pierce was a curator, or one of the first curators here, second curator. That's a picture of him right up there on the wall. Harry Pierce had a good, solid relationship with Mi'kmaq people. And Harry Pierce had produced 3 volumes of Mi'kmaq notes, actually, that are kind of like my Bible. Talk about genealogy, politics, Mi'kmaq cultural material, all these things. And if it wasn't for Harry Pierce collecting this information, it would be basically gone. Do I think materials that are in galleries in England, Germany, and other countries come back here? Keep this in mind when you're thinking about, when you ask that question or if you want to answer it. French became enamored with Mi'kmaq material and purchased it and traded for it. The British became enamored with it, traded for it, and purchased it. Then other countries became enamored with it. So a lot of material that's in all these foreign museums were kind of legitimately purchased. Repatriation, I think, is a real concern. There's some materials that should be coming back here that probably were sold, but and Mi'kmaq people not realizing the cultural value of what they may have sold honestly, and we should bring that back. When we had tourism opened up in Nova Scotia and Halifax, Mi'kmaq women were producing Glengarry caps, but they decorated them with this beautiful beadwork and sold them back to tourists. But it kind of morphed into a leadership cap. I've had seamstress come in and look at the sewing technique on these, and they're just amazed of the old sewing techniques and how these were very professional people.
Done without machines.
Done without machines. And of course you see Mi'kmaq women making caps that are influenced by European fashion. And like I say, it stays distinctively Mi'kmaq, and you see what I mean now?
Yes.
And I think that's the beauty of it. This would have probably been accessioned in the 1800s.
It's amazing.
Latter part of the 1800s.
Wow.
Again, you see the work. It's raised flowers. Very simple construction technique.
Did you know that the first treaty that the United States ever signed involves the Mi'kmaq? It was the Watertown Treaty of 1776. Washington wanted to secure the northern border, and he had asked the Mi'kmaq for help. The tribes, which involved the Mi'kmaq, agreed to send 600 men to help. The treaty is still honored today. Mi'kmaq people are allowed to join the United States militaries, regardless of where they were born. However, the treaty was never fully ratified by the Mi'kmaq. They sent their delegates to negotiate a peace treaty, not one that committed them to war.
What you'll see right here are reproductions of early Mi'kmaq material that were found in, they were excavated. Mats, for example.
Oh.
So a master weaver would have produced these, Jolene Gordon, and looked and examined the pieces that came out of archaeological sites and reproduced them. These would have been made for mats in a wigwam, for insulation on the walls of a wigwam. These would have been early containers. You got to remember, 95% of the material that's in this museum was made by women. And rather than look at these artifacts or the collection as collections or relics, we kind of tried to view them, take it out of that kind of context and put it into, talk about it in the context of the rise of commodity art. This cradle was used for 3 generations, 4 generations.
Wow.
Again, another example of people bringing things in they don't want to discard, throw away. This was the original. then modified with the rocker, then modified with the little rails, little ribs here for a canopy. And I think this is a beautiful, wonderful story when we're talking about Mi'kmaq people adapting, redefining their economy, etc.
Yeah.
And I think it's just brilliant. Eh? They're using European materials.
I like what you were saying earlier about a living culture and living people. My first time in the museum to see the Mi'kmaq exhibit, I believe, was National Indigenous Peoples Day in 2019. And when I was visiting, walking through it, I was pleasantly surprised to see when there are various items here, some noted made by who or crafted by who, and it's also amazing we were talking about women, because I've seen baskets here that are made by Caroline Gould, the late Caroline Gould, who was from Whalesong, and I basically grew up across the road from her.
So one of the things I remember learning social sciences classes when I was younger were that with early contact with the Mi'kmaq people and the French fur traders was copper pots. And basically traditionally how we had our own ways of cooking our food with hollowed out logs there, and all of a sudden with using copper pots, it makes life a lot easier. And this is what one of these are here.
Yeah, it's like you say, cooking would have been done, as you said, with a log. They would have also had ceramic pots made out of local clays. Would be examples of trade pots. And this kind of suggests to me that Mi'kmaq were more static than nomadic. We always hear that Mi'kmaq were nomadic and they were wandering all over the place, but my land use studies indicate that's hardly the case. Mi'kmaq were very scheduled, very planned, very deliberate in what they did. Would use mouth of rivers, head of tides, intermittent portion of rivers, outflow of interior lakes, rather than large groups moving around the country. They'd have, you could be a potter, I could be a hunter. And so they had trades. It's interesting because they had all the ologies.
Yes.
And you look at a copper pot and you think, okay, that's a foreign object, but we've got to remember in pre-European settlement times, pre-contact times, that Mi'kmaq were cold hammering copper themselves. And they would heat treat it. There's evidence of heat treating it, but they wouldn't have smeltered it like Europeans would have did. But they certainly were working with those minerals that they could access. We do lend out some of the cultural belongings to various communities and organizations. This particular collection was at the Confederacy of Mainland Mi'kmaq for probably a good 15 years and just sent back probably about 3 or 4 months ago for cleaning and for rotation. So it does go out to various organizations like the Millbrook Heritage Center. What I'm doing, I'm holding 2 types of quill work pieces in my hand here, okay? And this one, however, is damaged, but this here, when the Mi'kmaq art of quill working started to disappear, people in our province brought Ojibwe quill workers to Nova Scotia to reteach the art of quilling.
Okay.
What they did is basically brought the Ojibwe style. Mi'kmaq would never have quilled with this black portion of the quill showing.
Oh.
They would never have taken a quill and extended it down over the lip or the edge like that. Now this is another good example of it. You don't see any black portion of a quill, just a dyed.
Yes.
We were talking about adaptation, these are trays for your table.
Wow.
Like we'd put,
Plates, cutlery.
yeah, we'd have a placemat.
Yes.
on our table today. This would be Mi'kmaq adapting that place mat and making it their own, right?
Amazing.
To understand where Mi'kmaq are today, you have to understand where they've come from in the past. It's available for anybody to come and see.
Wonderful.
Researchers, Mi'kmaq people, more than welcomed in here.
And share our knowledge with the world.
Yeah,
Yes. This has been incredible, Roger.
I'm glad you could see it.
My pleasure. Well, Alan.
Well, Alan?
To learn more about Mi'kmaq living culture and to understand the past, we are headed to our next stop, Goat Island in Eskasoni, Unama'ki.
So, of course, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Matthew, and I'll be your tour guide for today.
Did you know that the word Niskum, which in Mi'kmaq means our grandfather, was adapted by the early Catholic missionaries to connote the word God? In the Mi'kmaq language, there's no one word for creator, but rather various verbs that articulate different processes of creation. Gisilk, what created us. Unkweyulk, what looks after us. Gijeyulk, what watches after or over us. Dikweyulk, what is with us. None of these words were nouns that meant one central being, a God, creator, as a source of creation. These words were also said with a present tense, that God, creator, is ongoing. One couldn't speak of God, creator, as something that already happened. That is, God, creator, is a process, a continuously manifesting creative force. We're here today at Goat Island, and I've heard of Goat Island a lot for the last couple of years. What is Goat Island? How did it get its name?
We have to go back in time a bit, back during what we call centralization. At that time, there was an influx of Mi'kmaq coming to Eskasoni back in 1942. So as time went on, with the population there was a tuberculosis at the time in Eskasoni. So the government provided goats for everybody in Eskasoni. But the thing now with the influx of goats as well is they're causing a bit of chaos, such as small things, eating grass, flowers, hanging laundry. You can see the problems now. So all the goats of Eskasoni were brought here. As you can see that it's an island, it's a natural barrier. So they kept them here as time went on, but eventually the goats would no longer exist because farming and animals would no longer be required. So when we have many of our guests that come here, they'll be taught a bit about how the Mi'kmaq conducted trade, but we tend to focus on was post-contact when the Mi'kmaq and the French and the technological changes from stone tools to more made of iron and eventually steel, the style different changes of clothing from the leathers that what they would wear up to eventually wearing things such as linen and wool, and as well just simply the evolution of technological change. This eventually they called it the Daisybokjij or shaving horse, which would be used to make many woodworking tools for the Mi'kmaq post-contact.
Excellent. I like to see more parts of Goat Island.
Of course, yes. So we'll come right this way.
The site looks great.
Okay, I'll park it right here. Perfect. This structure here is a wigwam. It was our houses. They would be covered in birch bark.
What's that structure right down there?
That structure we have down there is actually, it is a smokehouse where they would cover it and they would actually put the meats that they would cut from when they hunted and fished, and they would actually preserve it. They would use smoke dry it to preserve the food for the winter.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
The fire down here would be a smoldering fire. It would be a low smoldering, so very smoky to dry all the meats in the structure for about a day or two, depending if it was meat or fish.
So as Mi'kmaq, when we hunted animals, we would use every part of the animals, either the meat, bone, all the resources to help us live and survive. There will be a lot to discuss, but I was wondering if you can give us just a brief example of how we use some of an animal in our day-to-day living.
An example would be actually the femur of a moose, where they would break it and they would put it in boiling water, where the marrow would come out, and they would take that and actually would put it in their bags. So as they're hunting, they have something to eat.
Moose are large animals.
Yes.
And, pre-contact, we didn't have rifles. We had bows and arrows. So I'm always wondering, a large animal such as a moose, how do we take it out? How do we take this thing successfully here?
So during the winter time, as the snow was quite high, the moose would, as is running through the snow up to their shoulders, the Mi'kmaq would use snowshoes to chase the animal long distances, because eventually the animal will tire, and the Mi'kmaq with their snowshoes can simply follow the animal until they'll catch up eventually.
It's very smart, very smart. And I'm looking at this the dare structure here, and of course I notice it seems to be canvas and not birch bark.
Historically, when the Mi'kmaq were trading with the French as time went on, sometimes when the traders, such as the French, had old ship sails that were no longer worthy for sailing, the Mi'kmaq would actually trade for them. And when Mi'kmaq would set up their camps and stuff, sometimes instead of with birch bark, they would simply put the sails of the ships on their structure. And it's a water-resistant place, keeps you dry and all that. And as you can see, as it looks like it is an old sail of a ship.
It's basically, instead of letting it go to waste, we're using it for a new purpose.
Exactly, yeah. And what we have here are the petroglyphs. These are the carvings that the Mi'kmaq have made. It's kind of the precursor of the hieroglyphics that they would have had for the writing system. So the Mi'kmaq would carve many different symbols and pictures. And you can see these actually in the Nova Scotia archives.
Now, of course, I would presume that this is a replication, not an original here.
That is correct. It is, yes. Back in 1610, the Mi'kmaq conversion started then when Grand Chief Membertou was baptized in Port Royal, Nova Scotia, and the missionary decided that he knew the Mi'kmaq liked to make pictures, and they would do stuff like that, the carvings, and he kind of combined that and created a system of writing.
Oh, fascinating. Where is Goat Island? How do people get here? How do they register for a tour and check it out?
It is located in Eskasoni, and on our website, eskasoniculturaljourneys.ca is where you can look at what we have, and also you can book our tours.
Excellent. You yourself, as a cultural interpretive guide, what would Matthew like to see here on Goat Island in the future?
What I would like to see here is the ability for overnight accommodations to people to stay here as they're learning and to maybe live kind of way how the Mi'kmaq did. And as well, eventually what I would really love to see is a museum that has many of our artifacts, our history, and maybe some from places where they've gone to eventually come back to Eskasoni. Incredible, knowledgeable day. I want to thank you for sharing everything so much with not just me, but with our viewers as well. Whalesong.
Whalesong. The Multis.
The Multis. Yeah.
Wabanabiekna, mega the Sespelamadiek, Bukulana Muja, Wabanabiek. Bukulana Muja, Wabanabieka, Bukulana Muja, Wabanabiek, Bukulana Muja, Wabanabiek. Bukulana Muja, Samwayeka, Bukte, which are Wabasawayek, Bukulana Muja, Wabasawayek. Wabanabiekna, mega the Sespelamadiek, Bukulana Muja, Wabanabiek.